Hello everyone and welcome to another review. Today we're going to go ahead and review a fragrance from the House of Frapin. It is none other than 1270. Yeah, that's what it is. Here is the bottle. As you can see, I like the design of the Frapin bottles. They're very simplistic. It simply just says 1270 on the very front of it. It's kind of got this slightly triangular-ish shape to it, but they come with wooden caps. It says 1270 on the top of it, or sorry, Frapin, it says on the top of it. And it's very simplistic and it comes off. Now, here's one thing that I should mention about this fragrance is that a lot of the Frapin bottles that are shaped like this seem to have a leakage problem. I have said this before, but if you can see how much is actually used on this, I would say of this that is missing, I've probably used about maybe 25% of it. So about 75% of what's gone here is what has leaked out of the fragrance. So, and it's really weird at times. Like sometimes it'll leak if I just take it out and if I take it out of the cooler, which I store it in, and leave it there, and it'll leak for a bit and then it'll stop leaking. It's leaked when I've moved apartments. It's leaked at really weird times, and I'm told that I'm not the only one who has had leakage problems with their bottle. So just keep that in mind when going through. And sometimes it gets a little bit, messy when you spray. Or I think I've decanted a couple, and it's just gotten a little bit messy for it. So just keep that in mind for this. Now, it only comes in one size. It only comes in the 100 milliliter, and the 100 milliliter is going to run you about $145 without tax. So it's a little bit up there in prices, but it's not too bad. The parfum of the fragrance is Beatrice Cointreau, or Cointreau. Again, probably butchering that name, I apologize for it. And the only two other fragrances that I've seen are from fragrances from the House of Frapin that she's actually created. So she seems to be contracted out to Frapin of notable fragrances. Okay? So with that, and one last thing, the fragrance was released in 2002. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the notes for this fragrance. The notes of this fragrance consist of orange, dried orange, hazelnut, resins, dried plums, cocoa, tonka, and coffee for the top. For our mid, we have vine blossom, linden tree, pepper, and spices. And for our base, we have guaiac wood, white honey, and vanilla, and some woods. So if I'm to go ahead and give this smell, or give you an opinion of what this smells like, as soon as you spray it on, I get a very rich, fruity type of a scent to it. So the dried, this really does kind of remind you of dried fruits, but you can really get the plum out of it. I really get a decent amount of honey out of it. I get a decent amount of vanilla right off the bat. I get a little bit of woods. They're in there, but they're a little bit more dried back. There also is another note that is not listed here that I really do get, and they may be a combination of it. And it's this heavy, boozy cognac type, or cognac type, or I'm butchering this. It's this very boozy type of a scent, basically, that kind of gives you this impression of an alcoholic drink. It kind of feels like it's been stored in casks, if you will. If you want to have a more, I guess you could say, visual representation of what I'm smelling, this reminds me of two fragrances. It reminds me of Dolce & Gabbana The One, like a little bit more of a natural smelling Dolce & Gabbana The One, or you can kind of look at it like it reminds me of Thierry Mugler's Pure Malt without the patchouli. So if you took away the patchouli from it, you might get something that smells a little bit like this, and that's kind of what I'm getting from it. It's this really rich type of a smell, honey, again vanilla, and dried fruits that really comes in, and overall this boozy type of a scent that comes from it. It's a really beautiful scent. It's a very inviting scent. Pretty sweet at the same time without being overly too sweet. This is definitely a gourmand type of a scent that really does remind you of food because of all the dried fruits and all the notes that pretty much come in with the fruit. It does have a very, very noticeable fruity type of a scent to it. Now, again, reminds me of Dolce & Gabbana The One and Pure Malt without the patchouli. It's a very easy to love gourmand. It's very easy to love, very easy to wear, but it does have some issues which I'm going to go ahead and touch upon. Now, spray-wise, I generally go anywhere between 4 and 6 sprays. I go between 4 and 6 because there's another problem with this fragrance, and that is performance. The performance on this fragrance leaves much to be desired. By much to be desired, I mean I spray it on, and I've had this last as little as 2 to 3 hours. At most, around 5 hours on my skin, which isn't too bad, but at most. It usually averages out at around 2 to 3 hours is where this fragrance kind of lands on my skin. It does not last long at all. The projection is okay for the first hour, and then it goes right down the drain. Projection for me just falls off, and people have a very hard time smelling me unless they're really up close to me, or unless I just really drench myself in the fragrance. But there really isn't much else to say about the projection. Doesn't leave a good sillage trail, so the performance is not that good. Because of it, as far as scenarios goes, I think it's an okay fragrance to wear for work, but at the caveat, I think it's a little bit too sweet, a little bit too playful to wear to work, and so that's why I personally don't wear it to work. I think it's a great casual fragrance. I actually think this is a great date fragrance. Be smelling sweet. It'll mix well with it should mix well with most people's skin. It mixes well with my skin, and it's not overbearing, and you're not going to choke your date out. It's going to be a nice fragrance for a type of scenario like that. On the flip side, casual, I think it's a great casual fragrance as well too. Just wearing around the house, just wearing, outside casually, I think it's great for that. For high-end, type of scenarios, don't really think that it's really. I think you can find much better high-end scenario or high-end fragrances for this one. Outside of that, those are kind of the times that I think it's good in. Season-wise, it really benefits. This is another one that really benefits from the heat, actually. So while I think the most ideal time to wear this, because of the type of scent that it is in the fall, the heat will really benefit from this scent. So don't shy away from wearing this in the summer. In the summer, it really helps push out the projection a little bit more. I know in New York it gets really hot, really muggy, and this actually does pretty well in that type of a scenario, and that's where it's pushing like 6 hours. But even then, it dies down in terms of its strength. But for that, the only season that I would kind of caution against wearing it is the winter, just because, winter, you really need something that's going to project out a little bit stronger, and for this one, it just lacks that punch. It lacks that power to push through and to do a little, bit of fragrance damage, if you will. Okay? So, as with all fragrances, I take this one out, I took this on to Times Square and had 100 people sniff this scent. Of the 100 people that sniffed this scent, wow, it had 87 people who liked it. It had 10 people who disliked it and 3 people who thought it was neutral. Of the 87 people who liked it, by the way, there were multiple, positive comments, but the top comments were, it's yummy, it's sweet, it's inviting, it's sexy, it's different, it's, reminds them of food. Those were the top comments that you got for this fragrance. The ones that were so negative were, it was too fruity was the biggest one of those 10 people. They said that it was too fruity, too playful, too sweet, and it sickened one person. So just to keep that in mind for, what people thought of this. So as far as rating goes, rating-wise, I was kind of on the fence. I love this scent. I think it's an excellent scent. And because of it being so well compositioned, I'm going to go ahead and give it a fragrance rating of an 8 out of 10. Now that 8 has an asterisk next to it. Has an asterisk next to it because if you're looking for a fragrance that is going to have longevity, staying power, performance, basically, stay away from this one. It's not going to give it to you. Even for some of the best case scenarios that I've seen, I think I've seen max, somebody said 6 hours, I think was the top. 6 or 8 hours maybe was the top that somebody said that it lasted on their skin. Overall, you really do get a lot of people saying that they have performance issues with this, and I don't know whether or not it's because it's so natural or it feels so natural. Maybe not, maybe so. All I know is that it doesn't last on my skin. And so for performance-wise, I was really contemplating to give this one a 7 out of 10 just because of the performance issues and because of the bottle issues, but I'm not going to penalize the fragrance for the bottle. And the performance, I say we knocked it down a notch at least for it. So 8 out of 10, but keep those things in mind. If you're looking for a gourmand that's easy to wear, that's someone that's not too overstated or anything like that, go ahead and take a look at this one. It's going to give you a little bit of a boozy feel to it, which is absolutely fine. But at the same time, it's not going to give you that performance punch, okay? So if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free, send me a note, leave me a message down below. Tell me your experience with Frapin 1270 if you have it. Let me know what your thoughts are, all right? Thank you, take care of yourselves, and have a great day.